It Happened on the Job, the podcast for relatable conversations with contractors. Sponsored by Goodman Insurance.
Welcome to It Happened on the Job. We are your podcast for relatable and relevant conversations with contractors, hopefully bringing a little entertainment to you as well. Today's episode 70. My name is Mike. That's Brian.
How's it going?
And our guest today is Justin White, CEO of K&D Landscaping. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, what's up, Justin?
I'm doing excellent, guys. Great to be here with you today.
No, thanks for coming, man. We appreciate it. And I know we're taking up some valuable time here, so we appreciate you taking the time with us.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. Stoked to be here.
So if you could kind of, to get us started, kick us off a little bit, give us a little history how you got started in this industry, this space, and the journey to where you are now as CEO.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite the journey, and it's probably a little different than most people. I mean, I started probably at the age of 5 as a child laborer for my dad and mom. You know?
See, we hear that often, but I think 5 might be the youngest. Yeah, that's you've definitely got that one beat.
So, yeah, there's a great picture over here in our office of me and my little brother. I think he's 4, I'm 5 or 6, and we're helping my dad, lay down some mulch at one of his clients' properties.
That's actually a pretty high up job. I figure at 4 and 5, you're pulling weeds, right? That's what I was doing in my backyard.
Quick.
We were doing it all. We were pushing wheelbarrows, pulling weeds. So, that's been my summer job since I could remember. And, I never really saw myself as the owner of the company, becoming the owner of the company one day, but I knew that I had a passion for it. And so, went through high school and everything. And it was, I graduated in 2007. And right as I graduated, I was trying to figure out my college and stuff. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do the junior college route. But what we ended up doing was going and basically just working for the company because the recession hit. And here we are, 2007, 2008. And basically the company's looking at, are we going to survive?
Right.
So I was living at my parents' house, obviously, at this time, and said, "Hey, I'll work for next to nothing." And so started working for my parents right there during and after high school, and fell in love with it. I love the idea, the challenges of managing projects and running excavators and driving tractors, which was kind of the route I was thinking, was becoming like an operator, union operator of some sort. But as soon as I got into it and really started working full time at about 16. I realized how much freedom my dad had and how much ability he had to kind of make his own schedule and run his own jobs. And I wanted that, so he'd show up on the job site in his nice F-150 and he'd stop by for a few minutes. All right, everything looks good. I'm going to head out. And I'm there digging trenches and I'm like, one day I'm going to be in the truck and do that. So,
with the AC on, with the air conditioner on. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So that was big. And I do want to back up just a little bit, high school and school wasn't really my speed. I was racing dirt bikes and I was doing things like that. I wasn't big on the classroom. And so I actually went a different route on my high school route. I ended up getting my GED about 1920. I didn't go the graduation route, which I like to say that because I just want to give some of those folks out there who maybe 19, 20 years old and maybe they didn't go the same route as their friends. So there's still time to get your stuff together and end up in a successful place in a business.
Yeah, for sure.
I didn't do the college route and I didn't do the school route, but I got the experience in the field. So, working for my pops, managing jobs, and about 24, 25, my parents basically sat me down and said, hey, we think it's time that you take over the reins of this business. And we're at this point, we're about $1 million, $1.5 million with about 15 employees. So it's a good sized company. And I'm a young, 25-year-old kind of undereducated kid and said, I'd love to. Let's do this. I want to grow. So they had enough faith in me to kind of turn it over. And I hired a business coach. I built this big plan out and said, look, we're going to grow the company. So over the last 5 years, from 2015 to now, we went from about $1.5 million to doing $10 million last year.
Wow.
Jeez.
And we just skyrocketed in all areas of our business. So it's been quite the ride. And now here we are kind of resetting ourselves at this $10 million mark, which was a big kind of like plateau. And we're really building out this foundation to then launch to the 30 million mark, which is really our next big plateau we're shooting for by 2030.
Wow.
So
that's awesome, man.
that's kind of where we came
Congratulations.
from and where we're going. Yeah.
Very cool. Congratulations. Yeah,
That's
that's
awesome.
that's an awesome story. So a few questions before we get into some of the business stuff. That one, is your brother still involved at all?
He is, and he's our operations manager and
Very cool.
pretty much runs the infield day-to-day operations of the entire company.
That's awesome. That's cool. So, and you said at 24, 25, your parents approached you. Was there something that kind of forced that conversation that at that point, or what was the reasoning for that timing?
Yeah. So after 30 years of marriage, my parents kind of decided that they've had enough of looking at each other.
It happens.
They're going to go
happens.
in separate ways. And they worked together in the business. So it was one of those, bittersweet moments when they decided to go separate ways and go the divorce route. So that prompted the conversation of, hey, we've ran this business for the last 30 years. We want to pass it off to the kids. And I was in a position where I was ready to take over the reins.
That's awesome.
Responsibility. And by no means did they, come to me out of the blue. I was definitely the one kind of pushing to, put me in charge.
Yeah, raise your hand. Yeah. That's awesome.
It was good.
I mean, obviously, it's kind of a shitty situation, but cool for the family to be able to kind of keep it going and for you stepping up there.
Absolutely.
That's always fun.
Easily could have been the end of our family business at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
And that discussion, we didn't have that discussion, but it turned out really, really well for all of us.
Are either of them involved still as an advisory role or anything?
Yeah, my mom is a little bit. She lives in Oregon now, and we talk quite a bit. But my dad's very much involved in the day-to-day. He is actually our maintenance sales person. So he goes out and he gets new maintenance sales, which is our recurring income model. And it's kind of his retirement is how he sees it.
Yeah.
So we put him in the sales role to go get more maintenance for him.
And just get that recurring income on the sales.
And that's his deal. So he's a relationship manager, in-house engineer, business developer. He's got a lot of titles.
So do you guys do any residential stuff? It sounds, was there any kind of switch in what you guys did from a scope of work standpoint to go from $1 million to 10?
Yeah, absolutely. We actually, at 2015, the first thing I did was actually stop doing residential. I went all commercial, all maintenance, commercial maintenance. And that worked really well. But in 2018, I had the opportunity of hiring these two really talented brothers, the Ross brothers, Josh and Jeremy. And they came from the residential background and basically said, hey, we want to do residential at your company. So we fired up a residential department, which we've had a lot of experience in. It's kind of where our roots were.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And said, let's do it. So as of today, we have 3 distinct departments. We have commercial installation, primarily prevailing wage and public works. We have custom residential installation, which is, high-end custom residential, Carmel, Monterey, that kind of stuff. And then we have our recurring income model, which is our maintenance business. And we do mostly HOAs and business parks and large facilities. A little bit of government work in there. And they're pretty equally split. Each one does anywhere from $3 to $4 million a year. And that kind of contributes to that $10 million number. And hopefully this year we'll be closer to the $12 million number when it's all said and done.
What prompted you to go after the business coach? Was that something that was already kind of in the works prior to you taking over the reins? And then maybe if you could detail that, maybe some of the growing pains and some of the things that you guys started doing to get from 1.5 to 5 to 10 to,
100%. So the business coach actually was an interesting situation. It was a cold call and I got a call at the office and said, hey, this guy Jonathan's on the phone for you. He says he knows you and he wants to talk. Okay. So I pick up the phone and first thing he says is, I don't know you, but I needed to get on the line with you. And I'm like, all right, this guy's already got my attention because he's super honest and he's out there. And he basically says, hey, I've been coaching companies. I've seen you on social media. I've seen you in the CLCA, which is California Landscape Contractor.
Yep.
I'd love to talk to you about potentially partnering and being your business coach. And I didn't really think much about a business coach before that phone call. But after about an hour phone call with him, I was like, man, this seems like a really good idea to have a coach. And, I started talking to some people who are older and who are more successful than I in this business, which I think is super key to have that. And they all highly recommended I hire him at least for a temporary business basis, as we go through this transition. It helped that his background was in landscape, family-owned companies, specifically helping with generational transitions. That's his niche.
Yeah, I was going to say.
I was going to check every box.
And he
was that actually his niche, or after hearing your story, did he say, you know what, that's my niche? Because I mean, it almost fits too perfectly.
No, but what's funny is he knew we were family-owned, and he started talking about what he does for businesses, and I'm like, man, Jonathan, we're going through this, like, you know, and we quickly connected. You know, within that first phone call, it was like talking to a friend. And he was not only our business coach, but he's been our family counselor to some degree.
Yeah.
You know, because you got the divorce, you got shares, we incorporated at this time, we got responsibilities and roles changing. It was just chaotic, a lot of emotion, obviously, you can imagine. So having an outside person to calm the room down.
Kind of a mediator, kind of, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't know if we would have gotten through that as a family without him. So he was very non-biased, and he worked to kind of help all of us go through this successfully. And you know, so that whole process, it was very interesting, kind of cold call that ended up working out to be a great relationship. So that was something that I'm very thankful for to this day, because without a business coach, you know, I don't know if we'd be where we are. I was compared to a football team, right? Like, if you have your quarterback who's out in the field throwing the football and you don't have someone on the sidelines calling the plays, you know, you're not going to be as strategic as your competition.
Right. Missing perspective there. Yeah.
So it's key for us. But yeah, so that was great. And getting to the growth, kind of like the pain points and the challenges. So, you know, really 1 to 3 million wasn't too hard. It was just, we just kind of did more of what we were already doing. But right around that 3 million mark, you're at like 30, 35 employees, you realize, all right, hiring is becoming an issue. You know, HR is becoming an issue. Billing and receivables and payables and all this are starting to really pile up. It's no longer a 2 or 3 person company. You've got to build out a team to handle the back end, and you got to start building out departments, because having one operation manager or one person in charge of everything who's managing maintenance accounts and also trying to manage these large commercial projects just wasn't working. And that was mostly me, my brother, and my dad at this point. So, you know, we hired a great person who actually retired and moved to Santa Cruz, and he had ran his own business for 35 years. So we hired him, and he ran our maintenance department, you know, because that's what he did in Sacramento for 30 years, is run maintenance. So he ran the maintenance. That was kind of taken care of. And it allowed me to start focusing on growth and focus on landing larger commercial projects. So we ended up getting a large project because we underbid it. And here we are, like, with, I think the contract ended up being about 1.2 million when it was all said and done. And the only way we got it is we underbid, and we missed a bunch of stuff because we were over our heads. But it ended up working out. We made good money, and we developed great relationships with the GC and the architect on that job. And to this day, I'm doing half of our jobs right now are with that GC, auto construction actually, and also with the architect Bellinger Foster. So that one job kind of propelled us into this growth path.
Interesting.
And it was definitely a pivot point for us.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. We hire an HR/finance person to help us out. We're going 5 million now. We got 50, 60 employees. And once you hit that 50 employee mark, a lot of compliance things change, and where you got to run your business changes. So we had to redevelop the business again. And this is like 2017. We're at about 5 million. And we realized that we need a system-driven business. It can no longer be a Justin-driven business.
Right.
It has to be a system-driven business.
I mean, it can. You're just going to go crazy and not have it. Yeah. Not have a life.
And if we didn't have this big goal of saying, all right, we want to be 30 million by 2030, which was what we've said since 2015, we probably wouldn't have made the same decisions. But we kept asking the question, does this work at 300 employees and $30 million?
Right.
Most of the time the answer is no. So we have to change it until we can answer that question, yes. And so we go through that process almost on a quarterly basis now of asking ourselves, okay, what is going to work at 30 million and what's not? Because whatever's not going to work at 30 million, let's fix now so we don't have to fix it, while we're trying to fight the plane.
Yeah, I think that part's key right there, because there's there's a lot of people that want to do what fits right now, mainly because
or too difficult to make the change right now,
because
so
it's easier or cheaper to do what fits right now and hope that they can grow into something. And like you said, make those changes while the plane is flying, which is, it's never efficient. So I think that thought process is key there in that situation. Especially if you've got that end goal, in mind.
Well, yeah. And that's the business coach right there, helping us see the bigger picture and he has taken, 1,000+ companies through this process of scale. And so he knows the pitfalls mostly. And so he can help us avoid those.
Yeah.
Which I think is another, valuable part of having a coach.
So doing this, through this growth, I have to imagine one of the biggest hurdles for you guys or something you got to really focus on a lot is hiring, probably in my assumption. I have quite a few pretty large landscapers and just from the stories I hear from them, hiring is a nightmare. And I don't know what it's like for you guys, but how do you avoid, hey, we just picked up this contractor, our maintenance is behind, we need a few extra guys. And because I hear it all the time, like, we're on the insurance side and we try and provide, hiring practice help and help with all and I'll take them to my landscape guys and they go, Mike, this just doesn't work. Like there's times where I need guys and I literally throw them on the job and they come back to the office afterwards to fill out paperwork. And it just, so kind of speak to that a little bit, that whole process and how that works for you guys and what you do to try to avoid some of that stuff.
Yeah. Hiring has been, we try to identify what's our biggest challenge every year and make that clear to everyone in the company. And 2018, 2019, and 2020, every single year, the biggest challenge is finding and hiring and onboarding the best people.
Yeah.
That's our challenge. So that's been a pretty consistent thing for us. Now, at the beginning, hiring was exactly what you said. Get them out in the field. Hopefully the paperwork's done right. The I-9 correct.
Yeah.
It was sketchy. But about that $5 million mark, we said, okay, look, we're going to run into some major lawsuits if we're not making sure we're tight on the hiring. So we hired a great HR manager that came in, and she's really helped us tighten up the hiring process from the legal end, which I think is important and something that as contractors, we don't always focus in because we're so focused on satisfying our client that we're not really paying attention to the back end process, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's important to take into consideration. It's pretty simple once you get it to do that. But actually recruiting, interviewing, and hiring the right people is an intense process that I don't want to say we've mastered it, but we've made massive improvements from where we were 2 or 3 years ago. So we basically use a method on first referrals. If we can find referrals from our existing employee base, that's our first goal, is hire those people. And we offer a $500 referral, bonus to anyone that refers an employee.
I would assume that they stick around for a certain amount of time, correct?
90 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the person that referred them is kind of their buddy, and make sure they on board and they're happy because he's got some skin in the game now.
Yeah.
So that was the first thing we did about 2 years ago, and that's been great for us. We've hired a lot of friends and family members of existing employees. But the other part is just you got to hire quickly, and sometimes that pipeline of referrals isn't there. So we've utilized Indeed and Craigslist as our main source of employees, but I'd say 90% is through Indeed. And then we have a screening process where first we screen for behavior to the job they're doing. And we use this product called Predictive Index. And basically what it does is they take a quick assessment. It tells us, are they more social or are they more reserved? Are they more independent or they want to be on a team? And we create job assessments for each position where, a foreman is going to have a different behavioral assessment or analysis and chart than a laborer, or a project manager may have something even different than the foreman. So understanding what we're looking for from a behavioral standpoint is first and foremost. And there's a lot of tools like Disc Profile and stuff like that you're familiar with. Once we figure out their behavioral fit, which is only about 15 to 20% of the applicants. So that's a quick screen that we do, and we can screen out, we don't waste a bunch of time interviewing people. Now we go through the core value fit. And we have our core values up on the wall right here. We have 6 core values that we hire and fire by. And so once we know that the behavioral fit, we go through the core value fit. And if they're a core value fit, it's funny. The last thing we do is, are they an actual application fit? Can they technically do the job?
Right.
And most companies do that in reverse, or all they do is look at their technical abilities. So first we figure behavioral, yes. Core value, yes. Okay, can they do the job? Because we can train how to do the job. I mean, 90% of the people that come on board can do the job, but they can't do it to the K&D way.
Right.
And so we train them how to do things. Even if they've been doing landscaping for 20 years, we're teaching them how we do it. And it's different. And usually that technical application kind of goes out the window to some degree because we have different standards and different ways of doing things here. So
what from the core value fit, what are you guys doing there to kind of assess that? I would assume it's probably some level of a number of interviews with different people in the group there. That's
correct. It's a 3x3 is what we call it. So it's 3 interviews with 3 different people on 3 different days. And this gives us a chance to really get to know the applicant, and this gives the applicant a chance to know us, because the last thing we want to do is find the perfect fit. He comes on board, he or she, and they don't like K&D. They're not into what we're doing. So we want to make sure they understand the expectations of being a K&D member and a K&D employee, which are pretty high, and they're willing to work with those. We've developed a set of interview questions that really can help us identify if they fit the core values, which are professionalism, teamwork, humility, respect, hunger, and safety. And so we ask these questions that help us identify if they're a humble person, and if they're going to be a professional person, or if they're going to be a safe and hungry person. So we ask these questions that help us identify that. We go through this interview process. And by the end of this process, which we can condense down into about a week's time, we have a good idea, like a really good idea, if this person's going to be a good team member. And if they are, then we offer them the job. And then it goes into this 90-day onboarding program, which is pretty intense and pretty rigorous. And most of the guys that aren't going to last, they don't make it 2 weeks.
Right.
We get in, our culture is so strong. I kind of compare it to jumping on a running treadmill. Like if you're not sprinting when you come on board, you're going to get spit out the back of this company real quick, because our culture is so strong. And if you're on board and you're aligned and you're ready to go, you're going to hit the ground running and you're going to do really good. But it's pretty obvious who's going to make it, who's not, within 2 weeks. And, we've fired a number of people within 2 weeks just because we're like, hey, you're not going to enjoy it here.
Right.
And we're not going to waste our time or your time trying to train you for the next 3 months.
I think something you said there was really key when you said something about the expectations, because doing that process the way you guys are doing it with the personality assessment first, and then the core value assessment through the number of interviews, kind of lets the guy or girl, the person, know, like, hey, they don't even care if I can do the job at this point, right? They're checking all these other things, which, like I said, says, or like you said, sets that expectation that, this is how we operate, and you need to make sure we want to make sure you fit these things before we even care if you can do the job that you're applying for. That's pretty key
makes
there.
Sense.
Yeah.
You're looking for that cultural fit.
Yeah.
And then to what you were saying, Justin, you can always teach somebody things. You can't teach them integrity and character and all that stuff. That stuff comes as a result of, social and growing up and all that stuff. But yeah, it's.
Are you using the same 3 people when you interview?
No, it's all different. It's usually
based on the department they're applying for or whatnot. Yeah.
Yep. But we do have 2 very consistent people in the interviews, which is our longest lasting employee, Juan Sotelo. He's been with us for 31 years.
Jeez, that's cool.
He's my dad's first employee.
Wow.
So he's kind of like, I don't know what you want to call him. He's like embodies what the perfect K&D employee is. And so we have him interview almost every single person we hire, because he's just such a great judge of character. And if you can get Juan's approval, you're probably going to do pretty good here.
That's cool.
And then my brother, Shane, he's really the other guy that pretty much is involved with every single hire. He's quickly become our full-on operations guy. He's running all the day-to-day. And if Shane and Juan gives you the approval, like 95% of the time, those people are going to stick for a long time. They're pretty hard to get through those 2 interviews. But once they get through those 2 interviews, then we usually have the department leader come in and decide if that person's going to be a good fit in their department.
That's cool. That process, I think, is probably helped you guys out quite a bit, not only from a culture standpoint, but from a safety and compliance and all those other things that most contractors struggle with because they have guys that, maybe aren't as invested in the job or in the company as they should be.
Yeah. What is, you had mentioned before, especially in those first 2 weeks, just that treadmill, that pace that you guys are running at. What is it specifically in terms of, I guess maybe if you could just expand on that a bit, what you mean by that pace or that speed that you guys are running at?
Yeah. So it's primarily production, just the speed at which these guys work. They're within 5 minutes of the start time, the guys are working. There's not a lot of just him hunting around. It's get to work, get your shit done, and let's get this job and get on with the next. So, I think part of that is production, and the other part is just showing up hungry. We are always learning. We're quickly advancing. One of the things I talk about is for me as a CEO, starting at a $1 million company and growing to 30, I've got to stay a few months ahead of the company's growth in regards to we call it the lid of the leadership. So my leadership lid has to raise quicker than the company. Otherwise, if I'm not able to manage a $10 million company and we're at 10 million, then we're going to have some serious issues. Mm-hmm. So we're always pushing our existing team members to move up in their positions. And we develop really great career ladders and career paths for them. So I think it's this idea of when you come on to K&D, your expectation isn't that you're going to show up and do your job every day. That's just a given. That's why we pay you.
Yeah. You don't get the gold star for doing your job, right?
Yeah. That's and we try to explain that. It's look, you need to come and do your job, but there's this other level of expectation that you're going to help other people. You're going to have a desire to learn and grow. You're going to want to improve yourself every day. Yeah. You're going to go out of your way to, if you're working on a residential job, of course, pre-COVID, you're going to help if the client comes home with a full van of groceries, you're going to stop what you're doing and go help them carry the groceries in, or you're going to take the cans out from the street, take the trash cans out. You're going to, whatever you're going to learn the dog's name and bring a treat every day. You're going to do things that are way different and out of the box than a normal contractor, a normal landscaper. And that's our differentiator is we just care a little more, I think. And so when an employee comes on and they're expecting just to come here and do a job, I think they realize it's quite a bit more than that. It's more of a culture, a brotherhood.
A lifestyle too, right?
Lifestyle. Yeah. So, and if you're out, doing things that probably aren't great for society on your off hours, you're probably not going to be a great fit here because it's hard to adjust to that type of
You're looking for the fabric of that person that's coming in, which makes a lot of sense why you're doing so much stuff on the front end in terms of learning the integrity. Because by the time they hit the ground running, I'm guessing, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm guessing most of the people that actually get hired probably are going to stick around for quite a bit, right?
Yes, we have a really high retention of employees for this industry.
I was going to say, once they get that past that 90-day mark, your retention is probably really high. Yeah.
Yeah, we're high 80s in our retentions. In a business that usually has somewhere around 40 to 50% turnover. We're right now. I think year to date we're single digits, and COVID has definitely helped that because people are respecting the position more, as opposed to before where there's way more jobs than employees. Now that balance has kind of been restored with COVID. So we're seeing a little more of that. Guys aren't getting offers for $5 or $10 more an hour to go work at a company that's going to fire them as soon as the
first job's done. Yeah. So on COVID a little bit, how's that affected you guys both from a business standpoint and a business flow standpoint, and then also from an employee morale standpoint? How did you guys manage that?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we always talk winter's our season, and winter being the next economic downfall. It's coming. Winter's coming, and that's when K&D is going to grow more. When everyone else is firing their employees and shuttering their businesses, we're going to invest and we're going to grow. So we have a really good nest egg and we have really good cash flow. So as soon as COVID hit, we said, all right, guys, this is it. This is winter. This is our season. This is what we've been training for. We've been training in peacetime to go to war, and the war is here. So we all stepped up. We made, I think the right decisions right away to take the precautions necessary to protect our team, protect our clients. And we did a lot of advocacy at the state level to get landscaping approved to open back up very quickly. So we were shut down for about 2 weeks, but we got our PPP loan. So we continued to pay our employees. We continued to keep everyone on staff. We didn't do massive layoffs or anything. And within 2 or 3 weeks of the whole shutdown, we were back fully operating in a completely different world. We changed all the safety protocols. We shut our office down. Everyone's working remote. We isolated our crews. So we had crew bubbles where no crews, they weren't allowed to interact or anything. They had to go straight to the job site. So we did a bunch of safety stuff, but we used it as an opportunity to basically, I guess, just prove to ourselves what we've been doing from a cultural standpoint, what we've been doing from a strategic standpoint. It's going to pay off now.
Yeah.
And so, we've been really, really lucky, I guess, and just super thankful that we've been able to grow during COVID. We've been able to create this differentiator and a gap, we call it, between us and the competition, because we acted quickly. We had safety protocols out within a week. We just went all full force out. And all of our clients are saying, I can't believe what you guys are doing. We work with some property management companies who work with a number of landscape companies, and they said there's just no comparison between K&D and the rest of their landscapers. And I think that comes from our culture. So we basically looked at it. We put a positive spin on it. We said, look, we're going to war. Everyone's got to be safe. Everyone's got to be smart here. But as long as we follow this strategy that we put together as a leadership team in early March, we'll be successful. And so we've been following that strategy. We've been implementing things, and we're up about 12% year over year from 2019.
Wow.
And we're actually 3% above what our 2020 budget is right now that we set up in January, or late December, early January. So COVID's been challenging for our leadership team. It's been challenging for many of the managers. But overall, it's been a hell of a learning experience and really a growth opportunity for everyone to step their leadership up a little bit.
Well, it's got to be validating and somewhat gratifying to know that those things that you've built for and, like you said, prepared for, you actually had a chance to kind of use them, and they've proved to be, efficient and successful.
Yeah, and there's a few other factors I think that played into that. And some from what we've done, some from just how things have turned out. But first was we always answered our phone, from 9 to 5 throughout this whole thing. We have our VoIP system. So we had our office manager answering our phone, and almost every time she answered the phone, someone would be like, oh, a live person. Thank gosh.
Right.
Answer machines all day. I've been trying to call landscape companies. I got a big project I want to get done, and I can't get a hold of anyone. And so I think a lot of landscape companies and contractors in general kind of just shut down and we said, okay, let's lay off a few people and let's just kind of go down to our basics, our core operation. And our mindset was, let's keep growing.
Right.
And so residential has skyrocketed because people are now at home all day and they want a better living experience.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we provide is let us come in, let us put in a pool, an outdoor kitchen, let us set up your backyard to actually be an extension of your living environment instead of some overgrown, weed patch. So that's been good for us.
That's awesome. Very cool. Are you guys just operating kind of in that Monterey, South Bay area, or where you guys?
Yeah, we go up to, San Jose, Los Gatos, Morgan Hill, Gilroy, and then all the way down to Carmel, Monterey. And then we go down the 101 corridor a little bit to Salinas, Greenfield, a little bit in King City. We follow our GCs around. So if our GCs are going to go do a project in, San Jose or down in King City, we're going to go there for them. But our core operating area is definitely in Santa Cruz and Monterey. That's our ideal spot that we like to work.
So what are some of the key steps in going from where you are now up to 30 million in the next 10 years?
So right now it's really getting a solid HR team in place, because now we're approaching this 100 employee mark, and the HR, just one HR manager really isn't enough. We need a full HR team that's going to provide training, safety, compliance, and recruitment process for the entire company. And then the next step is really getting the sales team dialed in. And we don't really have an issue with sales. We turn away numerous clients like every week, but we know that to get to 30 million, we're going to need a sales team that's able to generate those leads, generate that business, to make sure that we're not going to get in this spot where we don't have enough work for the guys.
Yeah.
So make sure we're compliant, and it's generating sales. And then it's just a relentless focus on operational efficiency. And we talk about that constantly, is how are we operating? Are we efficient? Are we doing the right things? And making sure that we have the systems, like I was saying, that can work at 30 million.
Yeah.
So it's looking at your business, and then it's just developing that strategic plan every single quarter for the next 10 years. What are we going to do that puts us at 30 million? So I've broken the next 10 years out into, quarterly sections. So we have 40 quarters between now and 2030, and each quarter has a different strategic focus, and it has a different type of financial goal that's going to, at one day, 2030, hopefully, is going to sit us at $30 million. Acquisition and acquisition, multiple acquisitions is part of that plan. It's kind of built into certain parts of what I think are going to be downward economic times. So I think over the next 2 years, there's going to be a process of massive business, not necessarily people going out of business, with those baby boomers who are in their 60s right now, hitting the 70s and saying, look, I'm not going to do this shit anymore.
Yeah, especially with a $500,000 or $1 million company, like why go through the stress? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and the business as it sits probably isn't worth a whole lot, but it's an opportunity for us to give that person an out, possibly work for us for a little bit of time. We'll buy their assets. We'll give them a little money for their brand and their employees. And it could be a good way for them to kind of work themselves out and make sure their employees and their clients are going to be taken care of by a good company for the long haul.
That's awesome. We actually had a guy on a few weeks ago, Juan Banos, who his company's doing a lot, kind of the same things. And the cool part of what he's doing is, and obviously wouldn't probably work for you guys, but it doesn't matter what they do. I mean, he'll bring on. I mean, he brought on like a sanitation company just because So he's just all out there, just kind of trying to take what he has from a culture and a system standpoint, and basically, say, here, I'll give you this. Let me run your business and help you out. So I think that's, like you said, you're ahead of the curve a little bit there, because, like you said, I think some of those things are going to start happening in the next few years. From an acquisition standpoint, what are some of the things you've looked at to try and make sure that you acquire somebody with 10 or 15 employees? That's like hiring 15 employees almost immediately. And with that hiring process you guys have, are there steps that you guys have looked into to make sure that they fit what you guys are doing?
Yeah, it's definitely a concern that we talk about in the boardroom all the time, because we have such a tight culture. How is this going to interface? So I've been just talking to a lot of mentors I have in the industry who work at much larger companies who have done many acquisitions over the years. And so I'm kind of getting advice from them on what went good, what went wrong, or what went bad at certain acquisition points. So what I focus on is first is how's their clientele? What's their reputation? And do they have a solid client business in regards to recurring income? Ideally, really maintenance companies that have some kind of book of business. The next is who are their employees and how's their culture? So it's going to be a process of interviewing every single employee, sitting down with each one, talking to them about the opportunity to apply for K&D. So when we acquire the company, it's not like, hey, you now work for us. It's you've got to apply and let us know why we should keep you in this transitional process. And so my estimation is 50% of the employees are going to be into it and 50% aren't.
Yeah.
And that's what my expectation is. But it's going to be a lot of vetting of the owner first, keeping things confidential and private, then getting in and talking with their clients and really making sure they have a solid long-term reputation. And then finally it's interviewing and conducting, interviews with all their employees.
Yeah. So you're really taking that process and applying it to the business rather than just acquiring just to acquire.
Yeah. It's kind of like, hey, you just got fired, but this company I know is hiring. So,
right.
It's kind of like you got to help the employees go through that mindset shift that's going to be difficult for some and may or may not work for all.
Very cool. I got to say, it's awesome, man, to hear you talk. And obviously you've had a business coach, but to know the background that you had, and not to say that, obviously anyone who doesn't graduate high school has got no chance, but just to know where you were at one point, or the way you explained it to where you are now, it's awesome to listen to you talk and hear some of the things that you've come up with. And it just goes to show that school and that structure and that system is not really built for everyone.
Yeah.
And there's still a huge
very
opportunity to be very successful outside of that. So which doesn't get said enough in our culture, right? It's not something that is promoted very often, but it's definitely not the same for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely something that was a chip on my shoulder, I'd say. And I was definitely the black sheep of the family.
Yeah, I mean, you almost feel embarrassed, or you know what I mean? But like now you can look back and say, look, I didn't graduate high school, but I'm running a $10 million company, or in 10 years, you can say I'm running a $30 million company, right? You go to your 30-year high school reunion, it's kind of like, what did you do, right? Like
the guys that actually went to school.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, and like I said, there's no one path for everybody. I just think it's awesome that you're bringing light to the fact that
you're breaking the stereotype.
Yeah, bringing light to the fact that there's other options.
Yeah, and I've tried to reach out to the community of those people who may have become addicted to drugs at a young age, or fallen into gangs or crime at a young age and didn't finish high school. And their mindset is their life is, they have ended the possible success in their life of becoming a successful business owner or whatnot. And that is not ever going to be attainable for them. And trying to kind of communicate like, hey man, you're 19, you're 20, you're 21. Yeah, you're tied up in this, you're tied up in that. But look at what you can do over the next 10 years with your life. If you do the right steps and you start taking the right actions now, you can still be successful. You can run your own business. There's no certification. There's no CEO certification.
Right. Yeah.
So I try to preach that quite a bit and try to help some of those who may just have fallen into a deep place of depression and kind of given up on themselves, and their families given up on them. But they're only in their early 20s or late teens. And then with Salinas and Watsonville, we have a lot of gang activity around here, and they're pretty prevalent. And so trying to reach out to that kind of community and pull people that are really wanting to make a change in their life, and trying to sell this story of, look man, if you work your ass off, you can be something in this world. And there's no reason that a college degree or a high school diploma is a prerequisite to success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. So cool, man. I guess we kind of know. I kind of like to kind of finish with, what's the future look like for you. But I think we've
been talking about
you've been very clear on that. And I think that's part of the reason why you've been successful, is that you're very clear on what the future is going to look like for you guys, or what you want it to look like. Have you even thought about a plan after 2030, or is it just, hey, let's get there?
No, absolutely I have. And the 2030 is the vision that I try to paint for every single one of my employees and everyone who hopefully runs into us. So it's not only my vision, but it's hopefully a shared vision for their entire company, which I think is important for those business owners out there. Is we all have a vision for our business, but you may be afraid or not confident enough to talk about it. But the more you talk about it, the more you share it, the more it becomes this movement, and you have more momentum behind it. So that's a little something that I found. But as far as past 2030, it's my goal is actually to take this system that I'm creating at K&D and build it out into more trades. And you mentioned, I think it was Juan that you guys talked to, and he's kind of taking his method and applying it to all these different industries and different trades. And that's kind of my mindset and my vision is I want to create a place and a set of companies where someone can come in with a 5th or 6th grade education, and they can work their way up to make well over 6 figures.
Yeah.
And I'm excited that I have people that are working for us today who have bought their own home, started their own family. They live in this Santa Cruz County, one of the most expensive places to live in the world. And they have a similar background as me with kind of, less education, but they're able to work their ass off and get to a place of financial stability and financial freedom. So that's really my purpose is my goal is I want to help people achieve success that they didn't think was possible in themselves. And so that's driving me to create more companies. And I don't have like necessarily numbers or anything, but I would love one day to be able to have 1,000 employees who are all working towards a common vision and who are all financial free and financially stable for them and their families.
That's awesome, man. And I feel like it's scary for some people to go, wow, 1,000 employees. Like, I don't know that I want to manage that, but I mean, like you said, you got the systems and the people in place to kind of manage, and it doesn't matter how many you got at that point.
Yep.
So cool, man. Well, we appreciate your time, dude. We want to give you a chance to kind of let the people know how to find you, how to get a hold of you, website, social media, however they can find you.
Yeah. So, I mean, just type into Google K&D Landscaping, Watsonville. There's one other K&D Landscaping in like Illinois or something, but you can't mistake our brand, and we're all over there. We're plastered. We have a bunch of press. You can kind of see above me. We've got some cool articles written about us. We recently this year won Business of the Year from our local business chamber.
Nice.
Awesome.
Super cool. First year landscape company's ever won that. So yeah, just type into the Google search K&D Landscaping. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram. We're updating that almost daily, 4 to 5 times a week. We do an update on social media, showing our followers updates of projects, challenges we're running into, kind of doing that in progress, underground, thing that people don't really see. So it's some pretty cool stuff to follow along with our projects.
Very cool. Well, actually, kind of side note before we close, do you have somebody that manages that? Because here's the thing. Like, so we probably, this is episode 70, right? Probably half of the people have a big social media presence and are actually like, it's got to be one of those things where it's top of mind, right? If you just like, hey, let's sign up for an Instagram page and then update it once every 2 months, 3 months, like that really doesn't do anything. You might as well not have one. So I feel like construction and contractors, it's kind of a stigma, right? Or it's something that scares them a little bit. But the ones that are into it, you can see them on this, trajectory just because of the society we live in right now. So kind of to that point, was that a conscious decision you guys made to do that and update it every day? And do you guys have somebody that manages that for you?
Yeah, we have an in-house person now. We have actually a kind of marketing team, 2 people who really focus on our marketing and, driving new clients is so important for us. So actually recently my girlfriend started working for us. And so she's now our social media manager, and it can get really daunting. So I simplified to this: social media for any contractor is documentation. You don't need to create content.
Yeah.
You don't need to.
You're doing cool shit every day, right? Just show people. Yeah.
We have like a shared album on our iPhones that all of our foremen are in and all of our project managers.
She just pulls from that. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
20 photos a day that get uploaded to the shared album. And so you have this, print of pictures to pick from, throw them into social media, Instagram. No one's going to read your
diatribe or yeah.
Don't get too fancy. Just throw some pictures out there. I mean, everyone's doing cool shit every day out there as contractors. So just document what you're doing, because at the end of the day, that's what your clients want to see.
Yeah, so smart.
They don't want to see some polished, beautiful picture that's all edited and stuff.
Yeah.
They'd rather just see an iPhone picture of, this freaking gas main you're putting in, or this big water. That's
it gives validity to what you're doing, right?
Too,
authenticity. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's too polished, I say if it's too polished, you're going to look like one of those sponsored ads.
Right. They just scroll past.
People just scroll past it. Yeah.
So,
very cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, we'll make sure we tag all that stuff and hopefully, kind of keep awareness to you guys and look forward to staying in touch. And do you golf at all?
I love golfing. I'm actually, I'm playing Spyglass next Friday.
Dang, man. All right.
Well, I was going to say maybe we'll have to get up there and take you out, but it sounds like you're there all the time. But regardless, we'll find a way to make it happen, man. We gotta stay in touch.
Yeah, man. Hey, if you guys ever want to come up, I'd love to host you guys and take you golfing. We got a great golf course in Santa Cruz.
They're all great up there, man. They're awesome.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Very cool, man. We appreciate it, Justin. Thanks so much. Stay in touch. Stay safe, and we'll see you around.
Yeah, thanks, Justin.
Great.
Have a good one.
Take care, man.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.